Colleague in white says that the dark energy emitted by the dragon affects the monsters that are nearby. This will add to their troubles. This man is the swordsman of ice and fire, the hero, and he, smiling wryly, believes that they should strike first before the demons, intoxicated by power, attack the city. Windrunner, also a hero, joins the conversation, asking about the cause of the unrest, since they are only dealing with a weakened dragon who is able to escape from his shackles. Windrunner asks Dragonslayer's opinion, and he replies that it's just an ordinary dragon. There's no need to panic over nothing. He once killed a similar one single-handedly. The mustachioed man gives arguments against one should not underestimate the Black Dragon. He is completely different, because he is a rebel, namely a traitor, of the dragon race. The Dragonslayer looks at his comrade, smiling reservedly, and then his face takes on a completely opposite expression, believing that there is no doubt about him, because he was chosen by the heavens themselves. The man looks away, not wanting to take these words at face value, but also unable to refute them. He has his own opinion, but now he is afraid to defend it. The assassin says that he will deal with this dragon himself, and let the rest protect the city. But the archer raises his hand, intending to, in a way, lend a helping hand to his colleague. The man leaves with a gloomy look, and the shooter, following him, promises not to interfere. The dragon sits on a rock. Charlie stands at its foot, and before them bow in deep, respectful obeisance a multitude of frightened, diverse creatures. Throwing his arms out in all directions, he begins his fiery speech, supposedly on behalf of Elphys, calling on the demons to unite into an alliance and fight back against the Adventurers Guild. He calls on them to become hunters themselves, and they open their mouths wide in bewilderment and ask questions about some of the words, and also worry about whether they will be able to cope with this task. Charlie says that everyone who takes a risk will be rewarded accordingly, but adds to himself that, since he himself is limited in the choice of creatures, he will have to take advantage of and strengthen those that come his way. A few days later, Elphys performs a ritual with her new master, saying that his dragon blood will help him break through the third transformation, but not without consequences. Losing that much blood would take a toll on him, and it would take at least 500 dark crystals to replenish his strength. Charlie sat in the cauldron, slightly puzzled. Plugging his nose to get rid of the unpleasant smell, Charlie asks the dragon not to play poor. Crystals do not grow on trees. It is impossible to get them in such a short time. The system notifies about the passage of the second rank profession through the third appeal. The guy, smiling, rises in the cauldron. He can't wait to use the Black Dragon transformation. A black wing flies into the air, clearly belonging to a Black Dragon warrior with the talent, Black Dragon Blood, the effects being a 50% increase in stats and more. Charlie appears before the world in his new guise. His code name is the Demon King of Locusts, and the level, 125, the level of creatures under his control also increases. Charlie thinking that now, in this form, he will be able to deal with the heroes of the border town alone. His eyes also take on a demonic look. The dragon raises his head in concern. He clearly sensed something. Charlie the demon dragon also raises his head questioningly, not understanding what is happening. Two flashes are rapidly approaching them, one of them blue, the other orange-pink. Soon, two men with a determined look appear nearby. One of them is extremely serious, and the other has a smile on his face. The dragon slayer stands up to his full height and smirks at the dragon. The man eager to kill a creature with such a pure bloodline, as this will allow him to level up. He asks the archer to take charge of the rest, and he assures his colleague that everything will be fine. He is capable of dealing with small opponents. The guy in green straightens up to his full height and stretches his hand toward the sky, smiling as he summons the storm barrier. The space for an impressive distance around is illuminated by nimble green flashes, from which a barrier is soon formed as if by the wave of a hand. The opponents stand face to face. The adventurers note Charlie's level and even admire him to some extent. They did not think that such a powerful being was nearby. But the archer has another opinion. He promises that he will not let Charlie get in the way of his colleague, but the Locust Lord's pose is self-confident and unyielding. The schoolboy notes to himself that he wanted to practice on ordinary adventurers first, and then on the hero. But fate decreed otherwise. He uses the Eye of Initiation. This guy with red hair is named Carl Smith. His level is 131. His profession is a windrunner in his fourth transformation, and right now he is changing the form of his weapon. But Charlie doesn't intend to lag behind either. He suggests starting as quickly as possible, throwing blades in front of him. But Carl dodges the blades and they crash into the rock behind him, shattering in an explosion and leaving behind smoke. The archer uses the moment of surprise and takes advantage of his fast speed, appearing behind Charlie and raising his blade over him, but he manages to notice. But this doesn't help much, because the next moment the adventurer finds himself on the other side, wounding his side, and at the same moment the blow comes from the other side, as if there were two of him. Sensing something was wrong and turning back, the schoolboy orders his main representatives to destroy the green barrier. And at this moment, several souls of dragons of different colors seem to come out of the Dragon Slayer's body. He uses the hero's nobility, Dragon Slayer Field. They rush straight at their black brother in the flesh, clearly not with friendly intentions, and he spreads his wings wide and screams terrifyingly at the top of his voice. A battle ensues between the dragons. Black flies higher into the air to avoid being hit by the flames released from the ghostly blue one's mouth, while Blue is already preparing a ball of energy in his mouth. And at that moment, when it seems that the dragon manages to avoid all attacks, he notices a strange presence behind him, and squinting, sees the approaching Dragon Slayer with his sword raised. He delivers a powerful blow to the wing, and the dragon announces this to the surrounding area with its roar of pain. He finds support in the rock, clinging to it with his strong claws. The adventurer angered him because it was too easy. But the man doesn't give his victim a chance to catch his breath, soon finding himself on the scaly body, his foot finding firm support. Standing on the fallen, powerful body with a huge sword at the ready, the Slayer orders the dragon spirits to take the soul of the Black Dragon to the city and asks Carl if he needs help. The redhead refuses with a smile, saying that he can handle it himself, and when he finishes, which will happen soon, he will catch up with his colleague. The soul's huge ghostly paws dig into the Black Dragon's flesh and rush to fulfill the master's order, and he slowly follows them. Charlie orders his locust to destroy Carl's barrier at all costs, and they circle above him in the air. She flies up to the green ghostly wall, making various attempts to destroy it. Finally, one of the individuals manages to leave a few scratches on the surface, and, inspired by success, it continues its efforts. Soon, the barrier actually breaks down and begins to crumble onto the stunned creator. Hordes of locusts, pleased with themselves, swarm from above. The moment of surprise allows Charlie to catch his breath a little. He puts his hand to his wildly pounding heart, his charges standing behind him like a wall. Carl, smiling but not as joyfully as before, cuts up the small bodies, amazed by their endless number. But the kids are no pushovers either. Having successfully completed the task of eliminating the barrier, they can now attack their master's enemy with all their strength, leaving multiple blows on the body. Carl begins to feel doubtful. He is no longer so confident in himself, believing that at this rate he will run out of steam if he continues in the same spirit, and intending to end it as soon as possible. But events are clearly not in his favor. Genuine fear appears on the young man's face as the locusts surround him, spreading their nets. They cover the body completely, crushing with the force of their many paws, forcing the dagger with which Carl had previously killed their comrades to drop from his hand. A few moments later, only a gnawed skull and bones fall to the ground. A system notification appears in front of Charlie with the face of Mustache from the Imperial Academy, who congratulates the guy and says that a portal leading back will now open. But the guy refuses, saying that he can't go back right now, he still has unfinished business here. The man asks with a nasty smile if the guy really wants to free the captured Black Dragon, and he confirms these words, since an agreement was made between them. Usopp asks him to think carefully about this. If he goes to save the dragon, he will have to face the entire power of the city, and this is dangerous even for a demigod, let alone a divine being. The young man says that he understands this, so he asks for permission to use all of his creatures, in exchange for which he offers to increase the difficulty of the exam to the point of capturing the entire city. The mustachioed man is puzzled by such a request, but accepts it. But the change in conditions also means that Charlie will appear to this world in his true form, so he has no right to fail. A pink sphere appears in front of the guy from which creatures emerge. The first thing Charlie notices is one of the strongest. The Windsword Emperor is level 140 in this world. The man's eyes are glowing with a ghostly light and determination. Red Orc, Divine Hammer, which is the heroic form of the creature, has a level of 113 here. The Demon Minotaur Shaman also has a heroic form and is level 135. And the trio Skeleton Lord Bone Collector Resurrectionist have levels respectively 132, 75, 86. They are also heroes. Charlie thinks, there really are a lot of adventurers in the city. Even though its creatures are strong, there are few of them. Apparently the Demon Alliance will have to contribute to what is happening. Charlie tells his locust to carry his word to all the demons. It flies away, and the guy invites Sword and Shaman of the Minotaurs to follow him. The demons have a small council. Wolf notices that the Black Dragon for whom the Alliance was convened was killed. He now sees no point in going to certain death. He finds it ridiculous to follow Charlie's orders, also finding it easier to simply kill him and take away all the promised crystals he has. The wolf continues to say something, but before he can finish, his head flies off his shoulders with one sure blow. The eyes of the other demons standing nearby widen in shock. They see Charlie, who mockingly recounts their cunning plan. But the next moment, the guy's gaze becomes extremely serious when he suggests that these demons who decided to rebel are tired of living. One of the goblins points a finger at the guy, saying that they served the great rebel before he appeared, and that he is a nobody, so he has no right to ask for such a thing. Charlie doesn't intend to listen to these words any longer. He stretches out his hand, from which streams of energy spread out in purple waves, like ripples on water. The green goblin covers himself with his hands in an attempt to protect himself from the punishment that may befall him. The next moment he falls, and Charlie says that he is not asking, but ordering. The relatives of the fallen look at him with apprehension, fearing the same fate. And as if to confirm these thoughts, Charlie decisively declares that death will await those who do not obey him immediately. Fearing such an outcome, the demons fall to the ground, repeating in one voice that they are awaiting the order of their new master, who proudly rises above them. Charlie walks ahead, and behind him are hordes of demons. Their goal is the border town. The Black Dragon, on display for all to see, is once again in chains, and will soon face an unenviable fate. The Dragon Slayer sits on the throne and sips wine. A young boy approaches him and says that preparations for the execution are complete, and also conveys Lady Rose's concerns about Carl. The man says that perhaps he was delayed and promises to go and look for him himself later, but notes to himself that this is indeed strange. Suddenly, a strong aura and a loud sound hit the man, causing the space around him to literally shake and the wine to spill out of the glass, stunning the killer. A bugle sounds, followed by an alarm message. A horde of demons is approaching the city. All adventurers must prepare for battle. There are too many demons, so women and children must take refuge in underground shelters, and men who can fight must stand on equal terms with the adventurers. This is the first time people have seen such a motley group of creatures working together. And to top it all off, there are locusts that have recently joined them circling in the sky. An order is given to prioritize the elimination of enemies in the sky, but some don't even have time to begin to carry it out, as they are struck by a hail of arrows. The archers who release them are humanoid locusts, with bows gleaming in their paw-like hands, playfully and warningly sparkling in the rays. The elemental mages are trying to attack the enemies, shooting their magical streams of elements into the sky. People's faces are tense, they are putting in maximum strength. Fire mages come to the rescue, wanting to set the humanoid locusts on fire, but they quickly avoid the flames of the explosions, rising upward. A huge demon with a sledgehammer at the ready approaches the city gates. He's going to clear the way for his comrades. Swinging the massive weapon for the first time, he strikes with all the fury he can muster, the smaller demons standing nearby eagerly awaiting the outcome. Standing behind his army, Charlie gives the command to his higher skeletons. In his opinion, the time has come for the Resurrectionist and the Collector. The mentioned Sarana is distinguished, carrying its riders to cherished goals. The fallen warriors turn into undead and rush towards their former comrades, who freeze in horror, not knowing what to do. The giant with the sledgehammer finally manages to open the gate in his usual way. The demonic army is ready to tumble inside for the assault. But the evil spirit's path is blocked by that same purple-haired holy hero girl. She stands alone in front of a 1,000-strong army with a casual look and a carefree pose. But her gaze becomes serious and filled with determination as she crosses her arms over her chest to cast the spell, Hero's Nobility. Giant Vine. Giant green plants, similar to carnivores, emerge from the ground and stretch out their terrifying tentacles towards the enemies, who, by the way, do not have an ounce of fear. But everything changes when the plants slam their bloodthirsty mouths right in front of the demon's noses, demonstrating the seriousness of their intentions. Another hero, the Dragon Slayer, comes to the aid of his comrade, appearing along with the hot fire of the Flame Slash. Flames envelop the area directly in front of the entrance to the city, making it impossible for monsters to enter. Meanwhile, the mustachioed hero also joins the team, standing up to defend his hometown, and a whole squad goes into battle with him. The magicians who arrived in time are given the order to hit with full force in order to prevent the monsters from breaking through. Magical energy is splashed into the air from dozens of hands. The space around is illuminated by the brightness of the fire. It becomes unbearable to breathe because of the heat, and the eyes are trying to close themselves to avoid damage. Explosions thunder around the perimeter. Green goblins scatter in different directions, unable to stand on their feet in front of such a powerful force. All that the monsters, scattering in all directions, can do is scream in helplessness and accept their fate submissively, as if punishment from heaven had descended upon them. And the Dragon Slayer, as if mad, takes advantage of the noise to drag Black under the guillotine, promising his head as a reward for the adventurer's victory, spreading his arms wide. But Charlie can't let that happen, sending the Collector forward. Descending from the heavens, the higher undead cast a spell to raise the bones of the fallen into the air, intending to create a ward out of them as usual. Bone by bone, a new body of the future protector of their god is formed. Having completed his transformation, the massive skeleton knight, streaked with lightning, approaches the blocked entrance, wanting to provide support to his smaller brothers. His skull contorts with the fury of anticipation as he fearlessly swings his foot over what he considers to be a less than sturdy structure. This giant skeleton, not afraid of fire and the thorns of carnivorous vines, grabs one of the last ones more firmly. Fire does not frighten him. He pulls the plant towards himself, raising a pile of dust and smoke. Once the path is clear, Charlie stands at the head of his demonic army and rushes forward, announcing in his dragon's booming tone that he has come for him. Hearing the cherished words that deep down he simply dreamed of hearing, the black dragon widens his huge eyes and becomes inspired. Charlie looks at the black dragon with a firm and unusually confident smile, literally appearing out of thin air in front of him, fog swirling around the dragon man. The creature looks up at its savior, full of a variety of emotions, from the excess of which even its voice begins to tremble and stutter, asking what he is doing here. Several adventurer heroes are watching the scene, one of whom remarks that Charlie has a lot of courage to come here in person. A swift jerk and the characteristic sound that accompanies it indicate that someone has made a jump full of force, after which even a column of dust rises into the air. The mustachioed hero rushes forward, leaving his colleagues behind and announcing that he intends to deal with the demon who dared to act willfully in their city. The man approaches Charlie, who has managed to sense his presence from behind, announcing his presence with words about wishing him death and extending his fist to strike. But the adventurer is pushed back from the side, having struck first, and the one who did it is the Minotaur, who says that anyone who dares to insult their god will rot into oblivion. Nearby, the holy hero lands on the ground, punching the surface in front of him, causing his carnivorous vines to begin to stretch out towards Charlie. A red orc appears on top of the locust, wielding his energy-drenched hammer, announcing his presence with proud words about the weapon's divine origin. Using a sword of sparks and lightning, he attacks one of the plant's tentacles that has gotten too close to Charlie. The holy hero looks towards the opponents standing nearby, which are the aforementioned and the Dragon Slayer, puzzled and bewildered, her vines dying in the fire. With undisguised hostility, the hero tells Charlie not to dare interfere with his plans, calling him pathetic, and the dragon guy stands silently, listening to his interlocutor's speech. The Dragon Slayer crouched down, preparing to make a powerful leap, promising to destroy him too if he did not, and the essences of dragons appeared behind the adventurer. With their fanged mouths wide open, one of them rushes at Charlie, who at that moment remains remarkably calm, and for good reason. The ghostly creature is prevented from closing its powerful jaws on the body of the Dragon Man by the giant skeleton knight, who delivers a slashing blow to his head that matches his own. Because of its strength, the dragon squints, not even having time to close its open mouth, from which an involuntary roar escapes. The dragon turns around in the other direction, growling angrily at the new enemy, who growls back at him, making an angry expression. A fight ensues between them, which is observed by someone in a cloak with a hood pulled down over his head, shrouded in a fog created by the air of the battle between these two. The mysterious observer turns out to be the Skeleton Lord. Scratching his skull and looking somewhat confused, he notes with puzzlement that he is hungry. The next moment, he takes off into the air in one powerful leap, leaving behind only smoke and a crater. The jump is so powerful that it alone is enough to propel the Lord into the air far enough to mount the dragon. The skeleton takes a comfortable position and sinks its teeth into the ghostly flesh in order to satisfy its hunger. A powerful roar from the wounded giant creature bursts out of its mouth and envelops the space around for many meters, and the undead do not even think of letting go. The Dragon Slayer appears above them, raising his sword over the bone one. He asks the latter how he dares to bite into his dragon and threatens to kill him. The Lord turns around to look at the approaching one. The adventurer makes a sweeping movement in front of the Skeleton Lord, who recoils, covering himself with his hand. The swordsman still manages to hook the Lord, and due to the force of the blow, the bones of his hands are torn off, the undead falls to the ground, and the adventurer continues to advance. But the Lord is not as simple as he may seem at first glance. His limbs are put back into place, guided by magical power, and now he is whole again, as before. Leaping forward with a sly smile, the Skeleton Lord leaps, leaving his dumbfounded opponent behind and empty-handed. The undead do not run away or make a strategic retreat. Instead, they sink their teeth into the dragon spirit again, while the owner standing below stares up in shock, wondering what kind of monster is in front of him. Charlie at that time sends his wolf cub forward, who looks ahead with happy eyes at the abundance of dishes, and the boy rushes again to the chained dragon. Elphys makes a solemn vow to her savior standing before him to remember his gesture of goodwill forever. Charlie, throwing several dark crystals into the dragon's mouth to help it recover from its wounds, says that if the dragon wants to thank him, it would be better if he added a few more centuries to his contract. Charlie turns around at the strange sound, his face expressing mild surprise. The holy hero's plants thrust their vines into one of the red orcs. Blood spurts from his wounds. He closes his eyes and winces in intense pain. Charlie sends his main representatives to help the wounded man, ordering them to provide support to the divine hammer. The guy notes to himself with annoyance that the situation is slowly becoming critical. If they don't leave this city soon, the divine being will soon lose his army. Elphys leans over his shoulder, respectfully saying that she wants to show him her favor in return, so she decided to bestow her name on him. Today, Charlie will become the Great Rebel. The black dragon casts some kind of spell, and purple rays burst out from its eye sockets, enveloping the schoolboy in their light. The creature begins to read aloud the spell necessary for its plan, and pink tongues burst out in Charlie's direction, and the guy himself begins to feel certain metamorphoses. Thus, he gains a new talent, Rebel, the effects of which for some reason are currently unknown. The pink haze gradually releases, and the divine being moves. From somewhere, a sword filled with energy appears in his hands, and its owner rushes at the dragon slayer standing nearby, who has turned his entire body towards him. The adventurer is overwhelmed by the onslaught that occurs when the two blades cross, and Charlie's strength reaches a new level. Blood spurts out of the man's mouth. His eyes take on an angry, but at the same time stunned expression. The dragon slayer does not understand where the demon got so much power from. And while he is trying to withstand this powerful onslaught, someone is sneaking up behind the adventurer hero. With a malicious laugh, the skeleton lord plunges his bony hand into the man's body, piercing him through, while his face reflects fear mixed with surprise. From the fallen body, the undead lord summons a skeleton knight. The summoned creature gains the hero type and is a mutant, as well as a blood skeleton. Charlie, meanwhile, is fighting the holy hero and is currently pushing him away with a strong kick. The woman winces and flies away. The impact is so strong that it continues to roll even after landing on a hard surface. Finally stopping, the woman assumes a half-sitting position and, stuttering, says that he killed him. The dragon schoolboy approaches his rival along with the red orc, saying that she is next. Charlie allows the divine hammer to pay the woman back twice for what she did to him, and he thanks his respected god for allowing him to do so. He steps forward, starting to advance on the holy hero, and she falls to the floor again, recoiling in fear and covering herself with her hands. And the next moment a powerful blow occurs, knocking a fountain out of its victim. Charlie, sword in hand, watches the battle unfolding below him from the air, the yellow-green sparks that are the result of the collision reaching even to him. Below, there is a fight between his sword and one of the heroic adventurers in white robes, who delivers a sweeping blow with his weapon, and the opponent skillfully repels it, blocking. But Charlie doesn't want to wait any longer. He needs the fastest possible victory, and he dives on the adventurer, who has managed to sense someone else's presence, whose face expresses bewilderment. The guy in white clothes barely manages to deflect a fairly strong blow as the enemy appears behind him, describing a beautiful arc in the air. The guy curses. The sword twists, delivering several quick blows that cut through the air, one of which is decisive. It reaches its target. The adventurer cries out, leaning back. Defeated, the hero adventurer falls to the ground, hitting his head and hanging out his tongue. It's Usadi's turn, who turns around sharply, casting a frightened glance at what's happening right next to him. 3 minotaurs are rapidly approaching him, and the man screams, fleeing. It's over. They can't be defeated. He needs to run. But something he sees ahead makes him change his plans and brake sharply. The path of the mustache hero is blocked by a skeleton knight in armor similar to the one that one of his comrades always wears. The sword thrown over his shoulder also seems suspiciously familiar. And while the adventurer is surprised and trying to understand what's going on, a shaman minotaur appears behind him, raising a huge log over the enemy's head. Just one blow is enough to send splashes into the air. A flag is raised into the air, confirming Charlie's victory. The commander speaks to his loyal subjects, announcing the victory won in this difficult battle. All that remains is to clear the rest of the city in exchange for the promised crystals. The green goblins joyfully throw their hands up in the air, supporting the speaker with their own shouts. Charlie squats on the roof of the house, holding out a bag to Elphys, expressing hope that his new friend will soon regain his former strength, with the Minotaur and the divine hammer standing behind him. When the black dragon smiles, tears appear in his eyes. He promises that now, without any doubt, he will follow his savior, also calling him a friend. A system window appears next to Charlie with a representative of the academy displayed on it, who congratulates the guy on successfully passing the exam and notes that he did the impossible. The portal home is already prepared, and the schoolboy has 3 hours to sort the loot. He thanks and asks if it is possible to open a permanent portal here from his sphere. He is even ready to give away all the loot he has acquired here. The man expresses understanding and asks about Charlie's knowledge of the risks. Creating a portal is not a problem. It is a matter of a possible invasion. But the schoolboy says that he understands everything perfectly well and assures that he has thought everything through well. The interlocutor says that everything will be done within 10 days, and an alarm system for intruders will also be installed. The designated time later, Charlie stands in the recaptured city and gives orders to his skeleton lord that Lunar is now under his control. All skeletons and minotaurs will also be here. However, the risk of an attempt to recapture the city by adventurers does not disappear, so you need to be careful, but you should not be a hero. If the riot is not in favor, it is better to retreat to the portal without losses. The skeleton listens attentively to the speech of his god, and then answers that he understood his words. Charlie gives the order to open a portal, in front of which are himself, Elphys, the Minotaur, and the Divine Hammer. Sometime later, the schoolboy is walking down the corridor of his educational institution, and the teacher is looking at him, his mouth slightly open as if trying to say something. And indeed, the question escapes his lips the very next moment. The man asks what is wrong with his ward's eyes, for they have become amber with black sclera. Charlie looks at his smartphone screen and assumes that this phenomenon is related to the acquisition of talent, Rebel. He asks the system to open his status window and studies it carefully. A schoolboy tries to look at the description of the talent he is interested in, but access to the information requires the rank of demigod, which is very surprising. The representative of the Imperial Academy says that the applicant has done an excellent job in the test and offers admission to the preparatory courses of the educational institution, but with conditions. The guy asks about their character, and the interlocutor replies that to be admitted you need to meet at least 2 of the 4 conditions, and begins to list them. The main representatives must be born immediately as elite. You need to raise a hero, have 4 points of divinity, and have a creature of the saint type. One of the conditions is already fulfilled. There is at least one thing left to do, but Charlie says that it even sounds difficult. The man, leaving, says that it all comes down to diligence, and the doors of the academy are always open for him. The boy asks his class teacher if he knows where to get a divinity point. Tom expresses regret. He recently had one, but alas, it was already spent. And now there is still an exam. He will pass in a month, and the young man, having taken first place, can receive this very point. He looks unkindly at the elder and receives a remark about this. The teacher says that he is not lying. Charlie is in his divine sphere, since there is no other way out now. He thinks that he will have to take a risk. The guy puts his hand on the ground, from which the wind begins to spread. He uses the good old method again, namely life sacrifice. But divinity increases by 0 points. Looking at his palms, the guy notices that no one said that everything would be so easy, and is going to try again tomorrow. The next day, the student expects exactly the same result, but he does not despair, intending to continue trying. A week later, the situation has not changed, and Charlie, with tears in his eyes, remembers the time when he exchanged a divinity point for 150 million. He turns to the heavens with a prayer. A discreet sound is heard, and turning around, the guy sits in a system window with one message. Davy writes to him. He found the perfect place to stock up on sacred artifacts. Charlie types a reply asking if the other person could lend him a divinity point, thinking to himself that since Davy is already a true god, he really could have a point lying around somewhere. The guy on the other side of the screen wonders if the master is testing him, because according to his calculations, Charlie should have at least the rank of elder god, but it doesn't matter. Davy doesn't want to upset him. He says he agrees and sends a reply. Charlie is happy as a puppy, not believing that Davy sent a point so quickly, and concluding from this that the true gods do not fuss over trifles. He looks at the screen and is puzzled. The ruins of the Divine Gorge are spread out before him. Charlie goes online to look for information about the place. It interests him. The Divine Gorge ruins are an unfinished project of an ancient civilization. Due to the excessive depletion of the Earth's mineral composition, harmful radiation occurs. More than 90% of creatures underwent mutations because of this and turned into monsters, and then adapted to the conditions and began to absorb harmful energy to strengthen themselves. With high consumption, condensates can appear that grant the ability to control mutation. Later they were called gene stones, and are now used to develop creatures. Charlie smiles in confusion, beginning to understand how highly Davy thinks of him, since he decided to share the hunting grounds of the demigods and true gods. The guy is curious about the price of the invitation. A schoolboy reads breaking news about a certain famous elder god who decided to start breeding gene stones and went broke. He remembers that he has the decay mechanism, believing that he can make the most worthless ore into a perfect crystal, thus having a chance to obtain high-quality gene stones. In the city behind the ruins of the Divine Gorge, in a certain building, there is Charlie in a mask and cloak. He does not want to show his face to everyone, believing that privacy is above all else. A man approaches him, assuming that the schoolboy is here for the first time, and offers his services as a guide. Charlie clears his throat, turning only halfway towards his interlocutor, and asks him to name at least one reason for this. His gaze instantly becomes serious. He says that he knows at least 18 places where mutants gather, and also lists his other merits. The information is impressive, but Charlie is not interested in the mutants themselves, which is what the above actually concerns. He says that he came here for radioactive ore. The boy grins with some kind of malicious smile, repeats the master's words, and, conspiratorially covering his face with his hand, recounts in detail the news about the man who went bankrupt in this matter. He says that the mutants of that man's herd were unable to complete the formation of the gene stones and died due to excessive radiation. The business in which many points were invested failed. The outcome of the monologue makes you think, because it is the words that the deal did not take place because that person did not use the services of that very guy. A bald man approaches the group from behind Charlie, smiling, and asks the schoolboy's interlocutor who is with him. The boy, returning his smile, tells Hay that Charlie is his esteemed guest, interested in purchasing the radioactive ore, and Hay, in turn, is the owner of its mines. The man proudly states that most of the ore in this world passes through his hands, and all his goods are carefully checked, so the ore is only of the highest grade. Charlie approaches the mine owner and says that he would like to purchase several samples to test on his creatures. He asks for as much goods as would be enough for 10,000 BS points. The owner agrees, and soon the boy stands in front of the Divine Gorge ruins. Holding a red bag in his hand, Charlie notes that he ended up spending 4 times more, which came to 21 crystals. Now the price-quality ratio is known, but there is one but. The effectiveness is still unknown, but it is necessary to check it, then to carry objects into your world, and the guy creates a beast of the first level of mutation. A black wolf appears in front of him. It must be a wolf, a normal-type creature that has undergone a primary mutation. Their life cycle is 20 days, and to prolong life, they need constant radiation. The guy is going to check on the creature that turned up so opportunely and throws a crystal to the satisfied wolf. The creature catches up with the mineral and, smiling contentedly, swallows it by licking it. A moment later, the wolf grows a magical horn in the middle of his forehead, and his gaze becomes more focused. But these are not all the changes that the wolf undergoes. It becomes larger in size, its fangs lengthen, and its body becomes more powerful. The creature is enveloped in a magical blue light. Charlie is impressed by this result, because the beast evolved to the second level of mutation just by licking the crystal. The guy throws another crystal to the creature, and it absorbs it, opening its mouth wide as it flies. More impressive metamorphoses begin to occur with the wolf, and a red crystal appears on his forehead. Charlie is surprised, but more calmly, right now the creature has moved from the first level to the third in a couple of minutes. Thoughts are already starting to arise in his head about what will happen to his creatures, but a small explosion shakes the air, announcing the death of the wolf. Looking at this sight, the guy smiles sheepishly. The risks should not be forgotten either. Radiation is a dangerous thing. The wolf's body was literally torn to pieces due to the excess power that he absorbed, but the divine being achieved the main result. The mutant left behind the gene stone. Now there is no need to doubt the effectiveness of the crystals. Charlie examines the red stone in the sun. He turns around to hear an unfriendly voice behind him demanding that he give him the stone and the bag of crystals, while the still unknown interlocutor insists that there is no choice. Turning around completely, Charlie sees before him the demigod and his classmate's father riding the wolf he once fought. The guy wonders what the man is doing here, and from the reaction, or rather lack thereof, he assumes that he was not recognized because of the mask. He smiles, asking the rider what will happen if he refuses. The man raises his hand, twisting the portal of the abyss above it, from which 3 wolves are already appearing. and advises not to ask obvious questions. Several wolves run towards the guy, raising clouds of dust with their run. The guy bites the skin of his right finger until it bleeds. With this action, the schoolboy initiates the black dragon transformation. The youthful body begins to change before our eyes, shrouded in a pinkish color. The wolves stop, frozen, horrified by the monster that appears before them. And Charlie doesn't give them a head start, cutting and scattering the creatures' bodies with multicolored flashes. The demigod thrusts his hand forward, commanding his wolf cavalry to attack, activating the blessing of Wolf's Fury. A new batch of creatures rushes straight at Charlie, who stands meekly. But at the very last moment, the Dragon Man jumps up, leaving the enemy creatures with nothing. The animal's eyes widen in surprise at what is happening in front of them. Charlie hovers in the air, asking his opponent about his intentions and saying that if he is trying to wear him down, his tactics are as old as time. A smile of superiority appears on the boy's lips when he looks at the demigod and his minions. He calls his classmate's father a fool and informs him that this strategy will not work on him. The man says he never even thought that some weakling, instead of begging for mercy, would start insulting him. The demigod raises his hand and commands Charlie to descend from the heavens to the earth using the divine magic heaven's shackles. The divine being feels the power of the demigod. A certain pressure affects his entire being, disorienting him. Under its influence, Charlie involuntarily falls to the ground, wondering where the demigods got so many trump cards from, and wolves run up to him, surrounding him. The man orders his creatures to pounce on the boy and tear him to shreds, and they attack, forcing the boy to retreat. Something catches Charlie's eye. He notices a sign that says no entry, and a plan begins to form in his head. The divine being runs straight in that direction, leading the creatures carried away by the chase behind him. The demigod is also carried away by the premonition of an imminent victory and urges his representatives on, ordering them to speed up even more and catch up. A strange creature, similar to a cross between a dog and a human, lands on a tree branch, and there are others around it. Charlie freezes at the sight of these unusual animals, feeling the hostility emanating from them, noticeable even to the naked eye. The creature the boy noticed first suddenly jumps off its branch, followed by another, winged one, taking him by surprise. Charlie curses, turning sharply and preparing to run, because these creatures that hunted him do not look weak either. In this situation, running away is the best solution, especially when you are limited in strength. Meanwhile, wolves appear in the clearing, having picked up the scent. The creatures, having abandoned the idea of catching a man, turn to them. They approach the strangers closer, and the humanized dog strikes first, its eyes flashing furiously. But before her blow can reach its target, the demigod appears in the clearing, attacking first and telling the alien creatures to get lost. Stepping on the body of the defeated monster, Harry Bond rushes forward, trying to pick up the trail of his opponent again. Suddenly, the man senses something strange and clearly disconcerting behind him, and he turns around warily, preparing for anything. The aura that reigns around him seems strange to him, and, giving in, the demigod decides and gives his subordinates the command to leave. Charlie stops when he approaches the pond. He stops feeling someone else's presence and breathes out in relief. It seems he has broken away. He cups his hands and, scooping up the liquid, drinks it. A fish with human legs swims underneath the liquid. The guy sees this only when she jumps out of the water. His eyes widen in horror. It looks like the water is also radioactive. He needs to leave. He looks at the map, trying to figure out where he is, but realizes that this river is not marked. Or there is a version that he is simply lost. Suddenly, several more creatures appear in front of Charlie, raising dust. They are clearly not in a friendly mood. Their eyes are burning with fire. The guy takes a deep breath. Now is not the time to panic. Since he wandered here, he needs to start collecting gene stones. There are enough mutants. He takes the necessary pieces out of his inventory and runs forward with a determined look, throwing them right into the faces of the evil monsters. There are a few explosions and Charlie smiles contentedly. Getting the gene stones wasn't that hard after all. It's getting dark quickly, and the schoolboy is going to find a secluded place to spend the night. It's not very comfortable to spend the night among mutants. It seems to him that there are some ruins ahead, suggesting that perhaps it is an abandoned city of an extinct civilization of this world. It's better than nothing, and the guy, having transformed into a black dragon, makes an auxiliary jump and flies where he needs to. After a few minutes of flight, it becomes clear that the mysterious place turns out to be some old abandoned castle. Having assumed his normal form, the young man carefully wanders through the streets. It is unlikely that anyone has already taken a fancy to this place, but one must be on guard with mutants. The guy's gaze is drawn to a pile of something white to the side, and he turns his head to see some papers. He turns sharply in the other direction, his gaze becoming focused, his attention drawn to some kind of excitement of strange energy. He follows her call, and feeling that she is very close, stops under the shadow of the nearest arch. The energy becomes almost tangible. There are people standing a little further away who have caught Charlie's attention, and he wonders what they are doing. Someone says that their master lost a lot of divine power points, but gave them the opportunity to perform this ritual. They have no right to make a mistake. There are only two choices, success or death. A man takes out a glowing stone. The time has almost come. It is time to begin. The full moon shines in the night sky, becoming as silent an observer of this mysterious ritual as Harvey. People stand in a circle around a large glowing pentagram, with glowing stones lying in some places. Suddenly, a bright flash flares up, lifting you up to the very heavens and getting lost in their darkness, and giving birth to a stable column of light. The pentagram seems to cover this area of the city with its ghostly green light, and joyful voices are heard all around. One of the cultists is more joyful than the others, announcing that they have finally loosened the seal left by the previous civilization. Charlie remembers that this was not done for no reason, but in order to avoid some risk, apparently the master of these people was a dark horse. He makes his way closer, trying to be unnoticed, and is glad that not everyone can get into the world of the Divine Gorge ruins. The system notifies about the beginning of the unlocking of the source of the mutation of the ruins of the Divine Gorge. Nearby mutants react. It is discovered that the initiator of the unlock is not one of the high warriors of the Gorge civilization. The process is suspended. The security system is activated, releasing Gamora, a 6th-level mutant monster, and the other creatures are alarmed. The integrity of the seal is compromised. The source of the mutation becomes unstable, and the source begins to be suppressed. The incompetent cultists cover their ears with their hands in horror and scream piercingly, just to get rid of the piercing sound. Charlie sits behind them, stunned, wondering what's going on, and suddenly a mysterious voice appears somewhere. He greets the messengers of the divine worlds, introducing himself as the source of mutations and giving thanks for deliverance from slavery. In gratitude, the source wishes to provide the opportunity to become its carrier and offers to organize a selection in the form of a game. People don't understand what's happening and what kind of voice it is, but suddenly something glowing and acidic appears on the horizon in front of them. Attentive glances turn to the epicenter, where some creature appears. The source begins to explain the rules. It is necessary to raise a mutant capable of defeating Gamora. For this, everyone will receive 10,000 radiation crystals. One of the cultists speaks out against it. He is sickened by the thought of becoming the bearer of such a monster. He threatens the source. The guy tells the source to release everyone, otherwise he will summon creatures from his divine sphere and they will defeat him. But something is wrong. As soon as he tries to connect with his own world, something blocks the signal. The young hands begin to shake. The source calls this man the first loser, and Gamora appears, grabbing the former cultist with its powerful jaws. He bites the guy just for fun, because his mouth is so huge that the mutant can easily swallow his victim whole. The rest freeze below, afraid to move. The monster that appeared out of nowhere is almost 10 times larger than them. A familiar hand rises into the air, and Charlie's voice cuts through it, trying to get attention. He says that he too cannot contact his sphere, and asks how then to create a being that should become a mutant. The cultists notice the stranger and turn to him in fear, asking who he is and how he got here. The source, smiling creepily, asks the young man not to worry and says that there will be no problems with this. Meanwhile, Charlie is looking closely at the portal as he thought, he won't be able to escape. It's one way. The cultists discuss their troubles. The creatures cannot withstand the radiation, and they simply die. Charlie is delighted with his disintegration mechanism, because he fed it 10 unrefined crystals and received 6,000 pure crystals. He looks at the third-level mutation locust and encourages her, saying that he believes in her. Her accelerated regeneration must be good. With a satisfied smile, the guy feeds his main representative a few more radiation crystals. The unwitting comrades look at what Charlie has achieved and rush in horror, considering the mutant a real monster. Meanwhile, the guy has a 6th-level mutation creature, and he stands contentedly next to his brainchild. The source, with a malicious grin, tells Gamora to test them. The 6th-level monster turns its gaze to the people below, and they too become uneasy. The monster, as if also smiling, swallows the representative of one of the cultists, a large orangutan. The source's smile becomes even more dimensional when he says that losers don't deserve to live. Hearing these words, Gamora grabs several people at once with his teeth and devours them, filled with their dying cries. Finally, only Charlie remains, and the source says it's his turn, the boy standing firmly on his feet, looking forward fearlessly. The guy admits that in order to strengthen his locust, he had to feed it all the gene stones he had. Evolution was successfully completed, but there is a downside. The creature's lifespan was reduced to 1 day. Charlie tells his protege to attack, forcing his opponents to realize the true value of life. The source transforms, saying that he liked this fiery speech, which caused the monster itself to flare up. He says that the creature Charlie created is worthy of taking to the battlefield, and sends Gamora into battle. With a deep growl, Gamora moves towards the locusts with a heavy gait, which is still inactive. But when the distance, in her opinion, remains sufficient, she attacks, red blades rushing from her body. An even louder roar comes out of Gamora's mouth. He doesn't want to give in to the newly created mutant. When approaching a locust, it deals a powerful blow, causing significant damage to the opponent. But it is not fatal. Even though a limb of a mutant insect remains in Gamora's teeth, this only angers the locusts. But it regenerates with the help of magic, and a new paw appears in place of the one that was taken away. Gamora screams ominously, shaking the surrounding space with its sound wave. The source, watching the duel, smirks. He's amused that Gamora managed to anger someone, and finds the spectacle wonderful. The battle lasts for many hours, and finally the locusts bite Gamora, dealing the decisive blow. He falls to the ground from exhaustion, and the insect remains at a respectful distance. With his arms outstretched, the source calls the battle magnificent and Charlie a dear bearer, asking for his opinion. The guy, smiling innocently and putting his hands to his chest, asks what the source is going to do with his body. He replies that from now on they will share common flesh, Charlie's body, and the latter is amazed. Acidic, translucent tentacles grab the young man, knocking a scream of horror out of him. He stands in the middle of a white space, arms outstretched, and discontentedly assumes that he has died. A moment later it turns blue, and the guy habitually calls up his system status window to check the description. Looking at the name, he can't understand who he is now, Charlie or the source. The guy is puzzled. A green clot appears nearby, and the source's voice can be heard from it. Charlie is not happy with it and openly expresses his displeasure. The entity does not understand the discontent of the carrier, because with its strength and help, he will soon be able to surpass all the deities of the world. The source continues to praise himself, but Charlie interrupts the tirade with a hand gesture, asking for him to finish and how to get out of here. The entity says that there is no problem with this now, since Gamora is dead, nothing can keep them here anymore. The guy snaps his fingers and finds himself in another already familiar place. The source says that by removing the seal, they made a lot of noise, and true gods and demigods from all around are already flocking here. The guy starts to get really nervous, thinking that the gods won't believe him if he starts making excuses and saying that he didn't steal anything. He is almost in complete despair when he remembers the coordinates of the bloody arena. The gods who have almost found them feel that the aura of the seals has disappeared and find it necessary to speed up. They run up to the place where energy was last felt and burst in with a war cry declaring ownership. But nothing awaits them. After Charlie, there is no trace left. While the others look ahead in confusion, Harry finds something with his eyes and, crouching down, picks up the dead locust, guessing everything. A man standing in the middle of the room bursts into tears, angry that someone dared to take his property from under his nose. The man orders to involve all creatures and search without rest, day and night, but only so that in the end they find it. Charlie is in the blood arena, disappointed that he spent 1,000,000 divine power for one teleportation. He had barely arrived when he was immediately challenged. But the guy didn't mind. His fists were itching. The schoolboy habitually enters the portal leading to the bloody arena, mentally preparing himself for the upcoming fight. The system asks opponents to prepare their creatures for battle, and incitement is already heard from the stands. Someone suggests that Charlie call the Bone Collector right away so that he can reveal the opponent right away, and someone else counters. The dragon is encouraged by the large sum of money that has been placed on him, and Charlie smiles as he thinks about such a large bet. The opponent smiles, saying that he knows about the student's main representatives, as well as that he prefers the undead to them. The guy suggests that his opponent finish quickly. He wants to go home, and releases a horde of locusts in the first attack. The opponent accepts the words to end the match quickly, and, releasing his half-dragons, promises to quickly deal with Charlie. A humanoid locust attacks one of the dragons, and they engage in combat. The red-haired man is unhappy with fighting insects and orders his opponent to summon the undead. Charlie sits down and says that he will definitely do it as soon as the opponent deals with the locusts. Half-dragons, at the command of their master, begin to use their skills, spewing fire from their mouths. Charlie addresses his primary representatives, telling them to listen to his commands. The fallen locusts are on defense, and the heavenly demon beetles are on attack. The dark magic locusts are ordered to wait for a convenient moment to make a sneak attack. The locusts follow their leader's instructions to the letter, and this tips the scales of victory in their favor. The master of the half-dragons orders his subordinates to gather and burn their opponents, flames bursting out of their large mouths again. A half-dragon hero appears on the field and is given the command to begin firing from a bow. Charlie's opponent smiles as he repeats the words about the latter summoning the undead, or else all the locusts will be destroyed. The guy realizes that he is right in believing that he will probably have to call the Divine Hammer and the Minotaur Shaman. The next moment, the guy raises his hand up, illuminating the space with purple and calling out to the Divine Sphere. The source makes itself known by saying that it is beginning to doubt the choice of its carrier, because it suffers insults directed at it. The entity suggests defeating the half-dragon lord with the locust's powers, but Charlie is at a loss as to how to do this, since the forces are unequal. The source reminds us who killed Gamora, because in the hands of the source of mutation itself, a priori, there cannot be weak races. Charlie realizes that this is a good way to test out a new power, and, if necessary, he can summon stronger creatures. He summons a locust, which lands on the man's finger, and a bright light begins to emanate from the insect in all directions. The source asks if the owner has decided what mutation vector to give the locust, and he begins to reason. Fallen are good at being a shield, so I'd like to increase their damage resistance so they can cover others. The guy has 3 choices, and he chooses the last one because half-dragons attack with both fire and physical force. The mutation causes changes in all areas of the locust, enhancing all aspects of it, at the cost of reducing its lifespan to a day. The mutated fallen locust rushes forward, attacking the stunned half-dragons with its giant body. They scatter under its influence like flies. Charlie can't get enough of the fact that he succeeded and was able to give the locusts the necessary mutation vector. The locust continues to attack all other opponents. Charlie is going to take on all of his other representatives by giving them mutations. The dark magic locust attacks enemy creatures with shadow needles, and the inertia tries to protect themselves from the blow, bursting into a roar. Another subspecies of locust uses the talent, Savage Murder, to leave opponents writhing in agony. The half-dragon lord is stunned, wondering how the locusts could become so much stronger in an instant. He calls for the judge, and Charlie smiles, admiring his finest creation, a humanoid locust in mutation mode. Pleased with himself, the guy says that the lord of the half-dragons will have to sweat a lot against them. The humanoid locust strikes become more accurate and powerful, and it can kill half-dragons outright. Charlie notices the half-dragon hero in the crowd of enemies and makes him the first target for his representatives. The half-dragon lord falls to his knees and surrenders with tears in his eyes, begging not to kill his heroic-type representative. A spectator who placed a large bet on a fighter becomes angry, ordering the former favorite to fight to the end to win it back. Charlie laughs, noting that betting on him to lose never leads to anything good. As a reward for his victory, the schoolboy receives a divine core fragment and the blood arena seal, and he is pleased. In his god realm, the guy sets up his own blood arena, allowing beings to train up to hero level. At Charlie's divine core, a dragon sleeps in a mountain of gold. The master of the world is wary of the suspicion of today's joys. The source wonders why the owner is so inspired by these little things, because they are only the tip of the iceberg, but he can give more. Charlie asks if the entity has said everything it wanted since he is going to take up development, and it answers in the affirmative. Secretly, the guy is going to get rid of the parasite, but out loud he says the words necessary to activate life sacrifice. The familiar funnel-shaped column rises upward, taking with it thousands of insect lives. The divine being is offered the storm armor, which when combined with the core, grants creatures the ability to summon armor during combat. The observatory, when placed in the sphere, allows for precise monitoring of the situation at a distance of up to 10,000 kilometers. The Golem Creation Book allows you to create a creature that takes on the powers and abilities of those from which it was created. Charlie is impressed by this option. He is already thinking about the result that he will get from the unification of his former mutant and Gamora. His gaze becomes determined and anticipatory. It seems to the guy that he will soon become much stronger. The divine being is pleased, feeling that he has not wasted millions of divine power points on high-level materials. He looks at his golems and can't stop being happy, finding them adorable and stronger than some heroes. Charlie looks at the golem's status window and realizes that their regeneration is not inferior even to Wolverine. He called them baby chucks. He believes that it is time to throw time at fate, as he will soon be able to enter the Imperial Academy. 3 days later, the boy stands in front of the Imperial Academy and admires how even on the outskirts of the city, the aura of the demigods emanates from the people here. Charlie hears a voice addressing him, asking if he is a preparatory course student at the Imperial Academy. The guy turns around, saying that he still sees the man the Academy sent out greeting him. A helicopter was specially prepared for the future student, and the escort reassures him, saying that he will help him get settled. Charlie gets out of the helicopter and the man asks him to follow him as he is going to show the guy his future room. Entering inside, the divine being asks where his neighbors are and is told that the place is intended only for him. The guy is completely shocked, and the man leaves, saying that today he can rest, but tomorrow being late for classes is not encouraged. Charlie wants to get started on absorbing divinity as soon as possible because he believes that there are a lot of geniuses in this place. He walks down the corridor surrounded by voices who believe that the guy got here thanks to family influence. They do not recognize him. Some even threaten to give him a beating, and Charlie assumes that he will not have a quiet life here. Suddenly, a voice is heard behind him, asking if he is a new student, and the guy gets scared. In front of him stands a young woman who introduces herself as a preparatory course teacher. Her name is Lena. She says that classes are starting soon and takes the guy to the necessary room, and, upon entering, asks the class to calm down. Seeing a familiar face, Kian jumps up from her seat, shouting the name of her former classmate, and others look at her. They begin to talk among themselves, realizing that their local goddess knows the newcomer. The teacher introduces the new student to the students with a sweet smile and says that he previously studied at the same school as Cian. One of Charlie's future classmates jumps up from his seat and, in a displeased tone, expresses a desire to know how Charlie did. Lena's expression suddenly changes to serious. She says that in her class you have to raise your hand before you answer. The student begins to tremble with fear, apologizing and promising that this will never happen again. The woman's face regains its sweet expression, and she says that Charlie himself should ask the question she voiced earlier. Tart says that he doesn't really care. He wants to personally test the new guy's abilities and challenges him. Charlie thinks he's nuts and says he refuses with a distasteful expression on his face. The offended student jumps up from his seat and calls his classmate a coward, believing that he is not worthy of studying here, since he cannot even accept a challenge. A woman's hand lands on the surface of the desk with a loud sound, and its owner says that she has had enough. Sheehan angrily asks why Tart is picking on Charlie when he has done nothing wrong, and he tries to object. Charlie notes to himself that this is typical girl behavior. Even here she has acquired nasty henchmen. After the lesson, the guy is awaited by a raging Tart and his two friends, the leader of whom grits his name with displeasure. Suddenly, Cian appears in front of Charlie, blocking him with her body, and says that, first of all, they need to deal with her. Tart tells Cian that it's none of her business, but to his rival so that he stops hiding behind the girl, Charlie frowns. The guy noisily gets up from his seat and comes closer to the group, pushing the girl back. He says that he was too lazy to figure it out, but he also has limits to his patience, and asks what exactly his classmate wants. He also shortens the distance, saying that Charlie got here by accident, and he will do everything to get the guy expelled from here. One of his buddies points his finger and says that they will get rid of him until he drops out. Charlie, looking back at Cian, suggests that it was not easy for her to study in a class with such idiots, and she says that everything was fine before. The guy assumes that the girl hasn't had time to get close to them yet and won't mind if they get beaten up. Cyan says that Tart should not be underestimated. His representatives are the Steel Knights, the elite. He is very strong. Even her sparrows are weaker, and Charlie jokes with a smile that the girl is afraid for Tart's health, but she denies it, allowing him to do whatever he wants. Tart, hearing this, gets angry, saying that Charlie won't be able to touch him with even a finger, because one knight is capable of killing all the locusts. Frowning in displeasure, Tart offers his classmate to fight in the arena, who smiles. Cian looks at the back of the guy leaving and worries about him in his thoughts, considering him stubborn and regretting that he can't help here in any way. The system offers to choose a battle mode, and the newbie, smiling cheekily, is amazed by their variety and chooses 10 on 10. The opponents stand in the battle coliseum and prepare themselves mentally for the upcoming fight. Tart can't stand it. With a malicious smile, he speaks unpleasantly about his opponent, recalling Kyan's words and saying that he will not survive in the chosen mode. He is silent, but in the blink of an eye, 10 creatures relatively recently bred, Chucky's babies, appear around him. Tart's face takes on an expression of confusion. He does not understand who is in front of him. Although the type of creatures is obvious, they are heroes. But the Lord of the Knights does not lose his head. Calling on his representatives, his gaze changes to a confident one, he warns. As his classmates watch the battle, Cian is surprised to see Charlie's creatures and wonders when he managed to acquire them. The one standing nearby scans the creatures, saying that they are called golems and are comparable to heroes, but believes that knights are stronger. Someone is convinced that Charlie is someone's rich son, because he managed to get the hero's golem, which are very expensive. Cyan, who knows that Charlie has no one left, has a different opinion, but she is also interested. She wants to ask about the acquisition after the battle. With an extremely confident look, Tart sends his knights into the first skirmish, ordering them to crush their opponents. Those having gotten to a sufficient distance begin to attack their opponents. Tart chuckles, describing the sounds as blessed and belonging to the bones of supposedly half-heroic enemies. But his eyes widen in confusion when he hears a voice asking whether he has fallen asleep or has resigned himself to his defeat. The guy watches the battle and is more and more amazed by what he sees, wondering how this is possible. And the opponent says that this is just the beginning, and gives the order to his golems to start pressing. They rush into the attack. One of the Chucky babies lunges at a nearby knight with all his might, his muzzle stretched into a predatory grin. Observers are puzzled as to how such monsters manage to push back the Steel Knights, but it looks more like a beating. Cyan watches her classmate with a puzzled expression, impressed by his strength. With a frown on his face, Charlie bids his opponent to surrender, but he refuses, telling his opponent not to get carried away and saying that he hasn't even shown half of his power. He tells his representatives to unite, and Charlie scoffs, drawing a parallel with the Transformers. But the enemy creatures gather together, huddling together, and their enemy becomes curious about what they are doing. One of the golems stands next to Charlie, and in front of him a pillar of fire rises into the air as if from an explosion. As soon as the cloud disperses, a combined Steel Knight appears in front of him, and its owner thinks that the enemy is scared. After all the power of Tart's creatures is collected in it. The man's leg takes a step to the side. The Steel Knight breaks into a run and runs straight towards the wall of enemies, some of whom are preparing to block. The united one swings forward to strike, and enemy creatures are forced to close in to meet resistance. With a grin, Tart says that he will now show the enemy the strength of someone who is truly worthy of studying at the Imperial Academy. Charlie makes a scared expression and says that the combined Steel Knight is very strong. Tart, with a haughty smile, says that if the enemy surrenders, he promises to spare his creatures, but sets a limit of 10 seconds. He starts the countdown, and Charlie helps finish by saying that time is up and the opponent can continue. Tart remarks in a threatening tone that his opponent has refused and is about to add something else, but falters. His eyes widen in bewilderment. All the golems that had previously been damaged are miraculously healed. Tart cannot believe his eyes and expresses his indignation out loud. One of the Chucky babies takes off, not giving the enemy time to recover, and hurries towards his target. It turns out to be united, and Charlie encourages his creatures. Others are sent to help the first one. Golems mercilessly bite into the body of an enemy creature with their predatory mouths and tear off pieces of its body. They tear the Steel Knight apart, attacking from all sides and not allowing him to come to his senses and defend himself. As he watches his classmates battle on screen, one student wistfully remarks on the cruelty of Charlie's creatures. Tart also looks thoughtfully and dumbfoundedly at the head of the Steel Knight that has rolled to his feet. He falls to the ground and says in a doomed voice that this cannot be, and believes that this is the end. Everything is lost. Charlie emerges from the portal looking extremely pleased with himself. He is met by his classmates and Kian, who addresses him by name. All faces directed at the boy look stunned. But also, in addition to all the others, the young man hears another voice from the side, addressed to him, and turns to look at it. A joyful Martin pounces on the boy, embraces him, and says that he had no doubt that the younger one would pass the test. Charlie is surprised by his friend's appearance, asking about it and saying that he feels like he looks 10 years younger. He smirks, saying that he chose the previous image specifically for the arena because he thought that he would not be taken seriously. Classmates change their minds, realizing that Charlie got here on the recommendation of a student, and not because of his rich parents. Martin, meanwhile, says that he is his friend, and if anyone decides to offend Charlie, he will deal with him. The elder takes the younger one away, promising to introduce him to his friends. The latter is a little puzzled. The comrades go up the stairwell. In one of the flights, there is a guy and a girl. Martin introduces Charlie to them. The first guy to introduce himself is Thornton. He's also a first-year student and greets him politely. The girl, whose name is Loriana, asks with a smile about Charlie beating up their friend, who also shows respect and becomes embarrassed. The girl doesn't really like the younger one's words about a random victory. She thinks that everything happened because of luck, and luck is also a kind of power. The elders heard that the younger ones would soon go on a mission and asked to bring something from there. Charlie was surprised by this and asked for clarification. The girl does not consider the younger one a newbie, hinting that Martin shared with them all the details of the fight, and now he is embarrassed. Loriana tells about the upcoming test. Only students from the preparatory class can get there. Martin confirms and boasts of his strength, saying that if he were allowed in there, he would destroy the entire city in a few hours. Loriana continues the explanation, saying that on this mission, one can find a rare item that they are willing to buy for a high price. Charlie, outwardly casual, but inwardly jumping almost to the ceiling with happiness, says that he will take on the job. The girl hands the younger one a seed, saying that it will be useful to him to pass the upcoming test. Lying on his bed in his own home, Charlie reflects that if it weren't for teacher Lena's explanations, he would have wasted his potential. He remembers the woman's words about accumulating divinity points. He wanted to quickly become a demigod, but it is not profitable. Then the teacher explained everything in the most detailed and understandable way. She told about all the nuances at each stage of divinity. Charlie is flattered that Lena has such high hopes for him. He simply has to live up to them, and to do this he needs to accumulate points. A classmate asks Charlie about rumors that he already knows about. Many elders have asked not only him but others for a favor. Tart approaches the interlocutors and offers his former rival to make a bet on the time of the sortie. He clarifies the essence. The bet concerns the highest score. The loser will have to forget about Cian and even stop looking in her direction. Charlie almost implies that Tart is a dull-witted man and says that he should come to terms with the fact that Cian doesn't like him. He ignores the insult and says that it does not concern Charlie. Tart is ready to do everything to protect Cian from him. The aforementioned one approaches the company and clarifies the content of the bet, saying in full that Tart is currently bothering her. He says that he really likes her and wants to ask why she needs Charlie if she has him, but the girl insists on an answer. Tart confirms Cian's words, and she asks Charlie to do her a favor and agree to the bet. Charlie notes that there are many geniuses in the academy and asks Cian not to blame him if he loses, but she says that she believes in him. Lena enters the classroom and tells about the upcoming test. All that will be required of the students is to survive. She snaps her fingers loudly, announcing the beginning. The system informs about all the necessary nuances that will affect the students living in this world. Now everyone becomes mortal and begins to rely on the fact that they cannot use their divinity. Charlie watches. Divine beings have virtually no need for food and can go hungry for a month or more, and now they are forced to survive. He checks the basic abilities and makes sure that they all work as before, so there is nothing to worry about. Cian approaches the guy and he invites her to look around this unfriendly city. The girl, smiling, agrees. Crouching down, she places her hand on the ground, from which threads of magical energy begin to emanate. Cian summons his main representative, inviting his classmate to climb on top of him to look around from above. The guy smiles, gently declining and saying that he has his own wings. A moment later, Charlie uses Black Dragon transformation and flies into the air on his own wings without any help. They patrol the city together, Cian flying on his Storm Sparrow behind his classmate. Finally satisfied, the students land on the stonework of one of the streets. Charlie thought that there was no one in the city except zombies. But there is a lot of things here. The cafes and restaurants alone are worth something. Cian's stomach is protesting. The guy can barely contain his laughter, and the girl, embarrassed, notes that there is nothing to laugh about. He agrees, offering to look into the restaurant. As soon as the students enter the building, they are met by a good-natured old man who treats them politely and offers his services. Charlie says hello, saying with an awkward smile that they came from out of town, so they have money problems. The man's intonation instantly changes. He rudely drives the newcomers away, placing his gun on the counter in front of him. Cian starts to get angry, and Charlie tries to calm her down, reminding her that they now have mortal bodies and could die from a bullet. The boy remembers that the Elder One gave him a seed and suggests that it could play a role. He takes a seed out of his pocket and shows it to the man, who immediately lowers his weapon, surprised. The old man puts a smile back on his face and apologizes, saying that he didn't know the boy had such valuable seeds with him, and he was willing to buy it. Charlie says they are too hungry now to bargain, asking for food first. The old man is very kind. The table is laden with food standing in front of the two young people. Cian even stands up in admiration, expressing his feelings openly. Before putting a piece of chicken in his mouth, Charlie asks the owner to tell him a little about the city. He agrees and replies that there is nothing secret here. But at the same time, the students found themselves in a very amazing place. In the city, people and zombies have learned to live side by side. People hunt them for resources and money, and zombies become stronger by eating brains. Every night, the streets are filled with crowds of the dead, who may even break into people's homes in search of food. The victims are protected not only by swords, shields, and firearms, but also by special magical plants. The seed that the elder gave to Charlie is just the seed of a third-order magical plant. The man will be very happy to buy it. The guy, looking thoughtfully at the seed, draws a parallel, where the first-order plant is an ordinary creature, and the third, an elite one. Cian stops eating and looks towards the man and his classmate, asking where he can get more of these seeds. The old man says that there are several ways. You can buy it in the store, but it will be very expensive. Or get it from a zombie when you kill it. The students look at each other. Charlie wants to find a place to spend the night, as he thinks that at night in the city it can be very dangerous. The man seemed to read his thoughts, confirming that it was dangerous here at night, and that it would be better to buy a house or rent a room in a hotel. Charlie leaves the restaurant with the firm intention of buying a house, the old man waving his hand good-naturedly after the distinguished guests. One of Charlie's classmates is running around the city in search of food. His feeling of hunger is too strong. But the owner of the establishment he broke into is hostile. He tells the guy to get out and injures his hand. The system notifies that a preparatory course student, along with his healthy hand, loses 500 points. Cyan thanks Charlie for saving her from the fate of this mortal because the old man actually used the weapon. She confirms her classmate's thoughts about getting a house as soon as possible, and a little later they are already standing in front of the mayor's house. The man states the price he is willing to pay for the seeds provided to him, and states the cost of the cheapest house. Chien is worried that she doesn't have enough, and Charlie asks the girl not to worry, as he is ready to offer help. The mayor suggests buying one house for both of them. He just has one in mind, and announces its price. The young people enthusiastically accept this offer, because the house is not only huge, but also has a swimming pool. The man shows them a photo of the house so that the buyers can appreciate the full scale. The students unanimously say that they agree to buy it, their eyes shining with genuine delight. The man smiles contentedly, confirming that there will be no problems, but only if one of the city's conditions is met. Only married couples can buy shared homes. Young people feel embarrassed, and the mayor asks if they are ready to get married. The man says that otherwise it is impossible to buy a shared home. Their city tries to honor traditions and does not allow promiscuity. Embarrassed, Xian says that they are not even dating and is about to say something else, but she is unable to finish. Charlie turns to her friend, saying that it's just for the house, and she, looking down in embarrassment, frowning, agrees. The young people get into character, hugging each other and smiling, saying that they agree. The mayor hands the couple the necessary documents, saying that they look great, and once filled out, they are practically married. The man hands the newlyweds a tray with a house key and the promised seeds, and also wishes them a happy life. Charlie signs. Chien tells his friend that their marriage is only a forced measure and asks him not to overthink it, and he, smiling, says that he understands. The girl is unhappy in her mind, thinking that the guy agreed with her too quickly, and wonders if he really doesn't have his own opinion. As the friends walk towards their new home, the system notifies them that each person gets 1,000 points for purchasing real estate. Charlie beams at the sight of the grandeur of the house in person, considering it a mansion, while Kian makes a displeased face, convinced that he has seen little in life. The girl says that she's going to take a shower and get some sleep because she is tired, and the guy is just enjoying the surrounding decor. Looking at the bag in his hand, he decides to do some work as he wants to see what the plant seeds he was given are capable of. In the evening, the guy comes to the girl's room and urges her to get busy and not to idle away. Several hours have already passed. He enters Kian's bedroom, saying that he has already managed to plant the plants he bought, but she is still sleeping. But the girl is not sleeping, but changing clothes. Standing with her back to the one who entered, his eyes widen. A blush appears on his cheeks. The space is filled with the sound of an angry girl's voice, who tells the guy to get out of her room, and he tries to justify himself. Charlie leaves the house and goes into the garden to the plants. He notices that they are growing very quickly. After all, only a few hours have passed. Chien comes up to him and asks what the guy is muttering under his breath, and he, embarrassed, says nothing. The guy shudders, blushing even more, and the girl looks at him with a squint, noticing the redness of his face and making an assumption. Charlie says he hadn't thought about it, but the image he saw recently appears in his head, and his face becomes dreamy. Chien tells the guy not to make that face again and to forget about what he saw, otherwise she won't vouch for herself. He remains silent, smiling innocently. There is a noise coming from behind, and the girl voices out loud the question that has arisen in both of their minds. What is its source? Raising her hand up, the student calls upon a magical source of light, and the space around her becomes brighter. And at that very moment, the young people see a crowd of unknown creatures rapidly approaching them. As they get closer, it becomes clear that the monsters are aggressive, and angry growling sounds cut through the air. A smile appears on Charlie's face. He can't wait to see what the plants he has grown are capable of. Kian stands nearby, but does not share his enthusiasm. The planted plants have toothy mouths from which green pea-like projectiles fly out in a rhythmic volley. They attack the zombies, but they don't do anything. Charlie is amazed, believing that the effect produced is quite weak. An idea comes to his mind to strengthen plants with the dark attribute, and at that very moment, the corresponding object flashes in the young man's hand. The plants are engulfed in a magical flame, and some kind of metamorphosis begins to occur with them. They grow even larger, and their mouths turn into the huge maws of the dark pea shooter. For killing a first-order regular zombie and a first-order standard zombie, they are awarded a point each. The upgrade takes a lot of Charlie's energy. With a mortal body, he won't be able to overcome all the shooters, and they will soon be surrounded. The guy is thinking about what to do in this situation. Cyan tries to cheer up Charlie. Tart has also already got a house. He already has 1,300 points. They can lose at this rate. The guy looks at his plants and realizes that he needs to find a way to kill zombies even faster. If we take into account the fact that they are living beings, they are also capable of mutating. Charlie approaches one of the plants and begins to affect it with his power, performing a directed mutation. The suggested options are all good, so the guy is going to try each of them. Under the influence of the mutagen, plants become even more interesting, sparkling with amber eyes and bearing even more toothy mouths. The system notifies about a new batch of kills with the accrual of points, as well as about receiving items from some bodies. A little further away, a new sound of heavy footsteps is heard, and the wind spreads in all directions from the fleshy leg. The wave of new zombies that arrive looks completely different. The young people understand that it will be more difficult with them than with the previous ones. The flag-carrying orc-like zombie swings his makeshift weapon with a vicious grin as he lunges forward. Breaking sharply, he throws it with all his might at the target in front of him. It lands right in the middle of a cluster of mutated but still motionless plants, sending clouds of dust into the air. But on the ugly face, almost as soon as they dissipate, surprise is reflected. Plants greet their rival with a hail of lightning-fast projectiles from weapons of their own origin. Under their influence, the zombie orc flies back. Charlie approaches the abandoned banner and notices that it is made of multiple tempered steel. The handle even crackles with static. He takes the trophy and goes to his money trees, which he almost forgot about. The student is going to make them mutate as well, examining and carefully studying all the proposed options. He enjoys everything again, and Charlie is going to make the most of every option, which brings in excellent profits. Qian checks the rating table and is happy that his companion has once again managed to overtake Tart in the number of points scored. The same one, watching the results somewhere in another part of the city, is indignant, not believing his eyes, because he is being displaced from first place. Tart's gaze turns angry as he looks at the item in his hand, believing that his classmate won't be able to surpass him. The item was a seed from the blazing dragon flower, and 2 hours later the boy received a powerful fourth-order plant. The zombies are illuminated by the flames emanating from the mouth of the dragon plant, and then they quickly perish in its merciless fire. Already ugly bodies become even more ugly, dying a painful death. Tartu checks the tournament table again and realizes that he has managed to overtake his competitor again, regaining first place. He smirks arrogantly, saying that he has found out all the ins and outs of Charlie. He wants to make his classmate regret it. Meanwhile, the night is coming to an end, and the first rays of the morning sun coming out from behind the mountains touch the city. The remaining zombies die under the influence of the heat of its rays, which are considered fatal for monsters. Tyan sits in front of a mountain of gold and notes with relief that they survived the first night, and then asks what Charlie strengthened their plants with. The guy shares with the girl that he recently acquired the ability of directed mutation, and notes that it came in handy. Cian looks at Charlie with eyes full of happiness, confirming the last words, but unfortunately, they are still behind on points. The guy looks at the rating and smiling says that this is just the beginning, and besides, they now have enough money to buy the best seeds. Night falls over the city again, and Charlie, standing next to the second and third order plants, notes that he feels more confident. Cyan watches the horizon from a height with binoculars. She says that completely different zombies have come to them. The approaching monsters are indeed different. They are dark silhouettes, including those riding horses. As they get closer, the girl notes that the current zombies are third order knights and the fourth order dance king. Seeing the latter, Charlie is amazed at where such a powerful monster could come from, and Cyan asks what they should do now. The guy suggests turning off the lights and hoping the zombies don't notice them, as they are sensitive to light and sound. They turn off the lights in the entire area and hide. Kian asks if the zombies have left. Charlie thinks the plan worked. They ignore the house and go to the next one, watching the horde move away. The guy looks around for a certain zombie and, finally finding him, allows himself to breathe a sigh of relief. The most fearsome enemy leaves and it is the student's turn. Charlie asks Cyan to use a light spell. The girl agrees and, having taken a more comfortable position, releases a step of bright light from her hands. For some time, he flies towards the crowd of zombies and finally catches up with them. They turn around only at the last moment. The sound of horses neighing can be heard in the area, and several zombie knights accompanied by foot soldiers are racing towards Cyan at full speed. Not allowing them to get any closer, the plants attack the monsters with their share of volleys of balls. The zombies put their hands forward, trying to protect themselves from shots or at least minimize damage. A horseman gallops towards Kian, brandishing a formidable weapon, and now the girl covers herself with her hands. But she is saved by one of the new plants, of a higher order than before, hitting the enemy with a boxing glove. Charlie looks at the tournament table and is surprised. Another opponent appears on it, starting to press him from below. While he is perplexed, laughter and a question from that same Chaz Swift who is supporting him from below are heard from behind. The guy turns around towards the voice. There is a red-haired woman standing next to the student, whom he hugs, and she smiles sweetly at him. Meanwhile, the zombies find a new way to break through by imagining themselves as pole vaulters. Chaz gives the order to his plants, called Oak Snipers, to attack, and they readily obey. The plants are quite effective at attacking zombies, and their owner laughs madly. Smiling widely, Chaz wishes for the monsters to head straight for him, ultimately rewarding him with the much-coveted first place. Charlie expresses annoyance. He didn't think that any of the students would think of sitting on the neck of a local woman. Xian thinks that he is jealous. The guy reminds the girl that if he loses, Tart will continue to pester her, and she sticks her tongue out at her classmate. The zombie dancer enters the game, raising his hand to perform the great summoning, the twisting movements creating a small tornado. Second-tier zombie dancers appear out of nowhere next to the summoner, who stands proudly behind. They slowly walk towards the house that stands closest, the wind driving bright sparks through the air. Charlie notices that the king of dance still managed to break through the defense of their gigolo student. The zombie takes another step forward and belatedly realizes that he made a mistake. One of the enemy creatures appears under his foot, which immediately reacts to the intruder. The dancing king is thrown back with one sure springy movement and flies far away, doing several somersaults in the air. Charlie's eyes are about to pop out of their sockets when he realizes that such a powerful zombie has ended up on his own property. The guy can't recover from the shock, because he couldn't even imagine that this zombie could be so easily deceived. He orders his pea shooters to focus all their power on the king of dances, who open their mouths in anticipation. The shelling doesn't take long to arrive, and soon the aforementioned is shaking, trying to withstand a hail of pea-sized bullets. But suddenly he assumes a confident pose and begins to giggle, baring his bare teeth. Cyan notices that the plants are not coping and suggests taking shelter in the house. But Charlie understands that if they are not stopped here, nothing will help. He transforms into the Black Dragon, promising that he can handle it himself. With firm confidence, the guy flies straight towards the king of dance. First, he hits him in the jaw with his fist. Smoke billows from the skeleton due to the force of the blow, but the superior smile never leaves the skinless face. Charlie doesn't understand why the zombie didn't even move, knowing that he'll have to fight for real. He is going to pay tribute to his idol and kill him with his favorite technique, crossing his arms over his chest in a specific gesture. After properly preparing for the attack, Charlie delivers a machine gun punch, striking the enemy at lightning speed all over the body. The intensity and force of the king's skull will separate from his spine with a corresponding crunch. Charlie still stands in front of him with a serious face, watching as the enemy's body falls, the kill awarding impressive rewards. But the guy doesn't like that he was only awarded 500 points for the Dance King, since he was a level 4 zombie. Someone is watching this brilliant battle through binoculars, saying that Charlie is simply something. The observer is Loriana. She is sorry that she cannot see the rating, and Martin, standing next to her, is enthusiastically waiting for his turn to watch. He says that the guy is no slouch, since he decided to team up with Cian. The question arises whether Charlie will be able to find the thing they need. It all depends on how the younger one perceives the city. If he considers this place to be a battle between zombies and townspeople and plants, it won't work. The girl, smiling, says that she is now interested in what place in the ranking this guy will take, and even had a crazy thought. Lena, who overheard the conversation, appears right behind Loriana, asking again if he is a merciless monster in the girl's eyes. The woman takes a step back and asks the students to admit who they decided to bet on. Smiling puzzledly, Martin and Loriana give an honest answer in unison. The woman smiles softly, satisfied with the answer, and asks the freshmen to follow her, allowing them to watch. She is focused on setting up a screen window through which the students will be able to observe what is happening. Stepping aside a little, Lena says that there is definitely something to see here. Charging forward, Charlie in his black dragon form knocks over the zombie knight, grabbing him by the head, his eyes angry. The next moment, he gives the command to the pea shooters, telling them to concentrate on a specific target. The guy himself takes off so that he won't be accidentally hit by the plant attacks, and the monster is thrown back. Martin notices that the younger archers have the power of second-tier plants, and Loriana understands why he lost to him. But the girl does not understand why the zombies attacking him have such a high level. According to her calculations, it should be lower. Meanwhile, the Spring of the Hour and his women throw another zombie back. Now everything becomes clear. They are simply throwing it at him. Although the guy's strength itself deserves credit, not everyone is capable of developing plants like that. Lena watches the battle from a closer distance and notices that no one supports Chaz. Martin does not believe. Loriana's cheeks turn red with anger when she realizes that the student simply took advantage of the townswoman. The first years are curious about the leader of the trio, Tart, and Lena shows him, whose dragon plant is frying another opponent. The guy laughs heartily, happy that he thinks Charlie won't even be able to try to beat him. The plant seems familiar to Loriana. She thinks that their rival decided to support Tart. Martin is angry. He already overtook him once. Lena confirms that the students have made an agreement. In exchange for financial assistance, Tart owes the elder a large part of his savings. The freshmen condemn their opponent for such a vile condition for the exchange, and he suddenly appears right next to them, asking who they are insulting. Martin turns to look at the new arrival. Shannon, noticing that the assembled group is watching the preparatory course students, suggests making a bet. Martin frowns in displeasure, saying that he is already aware of the dishonest deal made between him and Tart. Shannon insults not only him, but his friends as well, saying that people like them are ashamed to be called students of the Imperial Academy. Martin jumps up, wanting to teach his classmate a lesson, but Loriana holds him back, saying that he is deliberately provoking him in front of the teacher. At the same time, the girl parries Shannon's cruel words, saying that they united to help the youngest of poor families. Emotionally, she accepts the challenge, and Shannon grins predatorily, placing 10 divinity points on the line. The girl accepts the challenge with all determination. Shannon says that their teacher will be their witness, so there will be no way to back out of the bet. Martin doubts his friend's victory. Tart looks strong, but the girl is determined. She believes in her younger brother. Lena intervenes in the argument, saying that Charlie can only win if he gets to the bottom of the zombie city's truth. After the second day of survival, Charlie collapses on the floor, exhausted, too tired to stand up. Chian asks him not to strain himself. She will collect what she has accumulated during the night herself. The girl is grateful to herself that the guy's abilities are with him. He closes his eyes and, smiling blissfully, agrees, calling his classmate his wife. The girl quickly approaches the lying man, her cheeks flushed as she kicks and asks him to repeat what he said. Stoically enduring the blows, Charlie notes that he did not come up with the rules of this world, and in order to survive, he must adhere to them. The girl turns away abruptly and, pretending to be displeased, leaves, saying that she doesn't care and calling Charlie a scoundrel. The guy's attention is drawn to a voice coming from behind, surprised that the couple has enough time for this pathetic flirting. Chaz asks with a disdainful grin how long it has been since Charlie looked at the ranking table, since he is still in third place. Instead of the guy, Xian does it and groans, putting his hand to his mouth. The gap between Charlie and Tart has increased to 200,000. Charlie responds to his peculiar neighbor with a joke. He still has aces up his sleeve, but will Chaz be able to work off the guardianship of a city girl? The overconfident student becomes enraged, pairing the words about aces and threatening to set his springs to bombard the neighbor's yard with zombies. Standing next to a mountain of gold, Charlie replies that it will definitely do him good, but something else catches his attention almost immediately. Among all this multitude, he sees two eye-catching seeds, presumably of the fourth order. One of them is the charming mushroom, and the other is called the corn cannon. Charlie is impressed after reading the descriptions. Kian, noticing his companion's enthusiasm, suggests that he go to the store to sell what he has accumulated and buy high-order seeds. Charlie agrees, almost calling her wifey, but corrects himself in time. The girl pretends not to understand, but is embarrassed. Sometime later, the students leave the store. Charlie was hoping to get a good amount for the skill he dropped, but no one even bought it. Sion, holding a red bag in his hand, tries to calm him down, suggesting other options and playing on the positive sides. Charlie jokingly says that the last word should remain with the owner of his family mansion, but she, blushing, offers her last name. The guy refuses and jokes again, which causes even more embarrassment to the girl, and begins to run away from her feigned anger. The guys come to the mayor's house, and he asks a question related to the current topic. Charlie bargains over the man's weapon. The head of the city thinks about whether the embossed banner is actually rare, and the man allows him to choose something. The head of the house takes the young man to the room where all his weapons are kept. The guy looks around carefully. When Charlie sees one of the swords, he feels as if it is calling him, and the boy's eyes light up with delight. Unable to resist, he takes the weapon in his hands, and something incredible happens. The blade begins to resonate with dragon blood. Charlie turns to the mayor with a satisfied smile and, holding the sword in his hand, says that this is the weapon he wants. The man smiles back. The latter says that the student has a keen eye, but the banner alone will not be enough for this weapon. Something else will have to be given.